Thompson. Where are you working?
I currently work at Winners.
Nice. Which one? Let us know so we can come see you at work.
I work at the one, it's near LaSalle on Dollard Avenue.
Ooh, I'm gonna come see you just now, real quick. How did you get your job?
So I initially applied online and then they called me, I believe it was like the next day, and then I just had an interview, and then it took like a couple of weeks for them to get back to me before they hired.
How was that interview for you?
Um, it was it lasted like I'd say an hour, and it was very like it wasn't that stressful in my opinion. It was very like calming because the person was nice, but they asked a lot of questions, so I had to obviously like be pretty quick to answer them.
All right, so I'm gonna rely on you today to give me some more feedback about all of the stuff we're gonna cover. Sounds good?
Yeah, it's no problem.
Anybody else on the chat, thank you, have a job or have gone through a job interview? Josephine, go for it. Tell me, how was that and are you currently working?
So I'm waiting to hear back to go in for an orientation. But I went through two interview processes.
All right, orientation to me means you got the job. So where will
Yeah.
you be working? Congratulations. Where will you
Thank
be
you.
working?
McDonald's,
Nice. Which one?
St. Charles in Pierrefonds.
Okay. All right. So I'll see you before I go down to see Ms. Thompson in LaSalle. Is that how that's going to work? So one of the things about McDonald's actually is usually when folks work at McDonald's and they have that on their resume, it is a huge sign for a successful employee as they move forward in their career. Did you guys know that?
I heard something like that. Like it's a good place to have a first job.
It's definitely a good place to have a good first job because there's so many things that are moving at one time. I don't want to scare you off, but there's going to be people that are asking for things and demanding certain things, and that ice cream maker is never going to be working, so you're going to be always apologizing for that. But the idea of working in a very high, fast-paced environment is really going to help set you up for success. And I would say the same thing with customer service for yourself as well at Winners. You're going to see lots of different characters, lots of people needing things and you're going to be asked to multitask and do a lot of things at once. So today's workshop, I have some slides that I'm going to share. I have been doing this workshop for quite some time, and it has been usually set up for folks that are a little bit older, so in university, college and university. But what we're going to do today is we're going to bring it down to where we're at right now and really set you up for success for what's to come. Before we start sharing the slides, is there anybody else who's going through a job interview or starting a job anytime soon?
Yeah, I actually work at McDonald's. I've been working there for like a year or two.
Excellent. Any feedback you want to hand over to Josephine to let her know what to expect?
A lot of stress, a lot of like mean clients. Um, yeah,
Sorry, it's true.
it's so true. But it's like it's stressful, but at the same time, if you're with your friends at work, it's really nice.
Right. And which one are you at, Christy?
It's at Pointe-aux-Trembles. It's like
Okay. So you're a
yeah,
little
it's
bit more
pretty
east.
far.
Excuse me. And how was your job interview process like?
It was very like very simple, very stress-free. When I came, they just asked me like a few questions, but I think they really needed like people to work. So they asked me a few questions and then I got the job.
Nice. So let's hope that that happens to you all the time. But there are so many different styles of interviews. We're going to cover a number of them today. And I believe, oh, can you give me access, please, to sharing?
There it goes.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to just share my screen. Let me know, please. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
I can.
Awesome. Thank you. So today's session is going to be called Mastering the Interview. And I'll start really quickly by giving you a little bit about me. So, I am a mentor and I am loving that Miss Gemma has asked me to do this. But I would like to think one of the reasons she's asked me is because some of the things that I have under my name. So, what I've studied is my master's in educational psychology. I've been working in transitioning folks from different careers for 7 to 10 years now. And also, a lot of this work is helping me now in the new work that I'm doing. Prior to that, I had a job and I still do this, plus size modeling, and I'm a host. The reason I think that's important to have there is to highlight that you can do more than one thing at once. You don't have to feel limited, and all things can be true, right? I've been working in community work for about 20 years now. And one of the things that I think is the most important, specifically when we're talking about job interview, is having an attitude of gratitude. You guys have to trust the process and just go into it with no expectations. Right? So some of the girls have already said it was stress-free, it was pretty easy. When you're overly stressed when you're thinking about a job interview, it starts to get very, very tiring and hurtful because you want that call to come or you want that email to come in. Sometimes you have to put your best foot forward and you just have to roll with it. My personal mission is to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. You're going to see and hear that from me a lot. And in training, we have to practice to first and foremost be kind to ourselves. So you guys are going through a lot right now. A lot of you are transitioning from high school into college. There's lots of big exams coming up. You also might be looking for different types of work and or internships. So I want you to make sure you put your best foot forward, but also know that you're doing your best and not to be so overwhelmed. I also want you to know part of my personal mission is to help you amplify your voice. And how does that look? While doing workshops like this, for example, and being aligned to folks like Akil and Miss Gemma Rayburn Baines. It's important to look for advocates in your community that can help also put a little bit of a shout out for you in the different fields and the places that they've worked as well. We're going to talk a little bit about networking and to support. All of us have been where you are now. And that's not to demean or belittle where you are. It's just to show you that we understand that it can be tough. It can be tough. You have a lot of plates to juggle, and it's important for you to look for allies. The fact that you have mentors right now is important. It's great because hopefully you can ask them questions to help navigate where you are in your journey. And our goal, and I can speak on behalf of the two folks that I just mentioned, are also here to support you as much as possible. Okay? For today's workshop, I want you to feel free to ask questions whenever you need. If you guys like, we can do it in that style. If you prefer, we can definitely go ahead and allow me to do the workshop and you can go ahead and ask questions after. It really is whatever preference you guys have. Anybody want to say what their preference is?
I
No?
think it should go through the workshop and then they can ask questions after.
Okay, sounds good. So I just want to send this up so it's a presenter view. Is this better? Can we see it better this way?
I
No.
can't
I
see
just
your
see a
screen.
line.
Oh, how's this?
It looks
Weird,
like
like
it's
it's just the top of the screen for
screen with
me.
the tabs, but not the actual content.
But not the actual content. So you would think that after all of this pandemic business, I would be much better at sharing my screen. However, it gets me every time. So I see it on my side, but I feel like y'all don't. Is that correct?
Not
Yeah.
right
We're not,
now.
now we're not seeing the screen. Oh,
And how's this?
that's better.
There it goes.
Okay, perfect. So, first and foremost, what do you think the purpose of interview questions are? Anybody?
I believe like the interviewer just wants to get to know like the kind of person that they're gonna hire.
hmm hmm And to your point, what's also important is they're looking for something called fit. So first, you're going to be sending off your resume and they're going to be seeing the skills that you have, the ambition that you put through here on your resume. But they're also going to be looking for somebody who has ambition and somebody who has a good fit for the team. Now, while you're going through the interview, somebody might actually think you're better for another role that's on the team or in a different way. So sometimes they're looking at it from a different point of view. They might know that they have a third key position or a potential leadership position that's available, or they might have something that seems like it's not what you want, but it might help fast track you later. So I would love for you guys to always keep this top of mind. Always say yes to the interview. You never know what it can relate to, what it can turn into. And I find when I do workshops, I'll always give you a little antidote of personal use, just so you see how it happens. I have gone on job interviews before where I thought I was going to be hired to do the thing that I was, going in there to be interviewed for, but instead I got a call back and I was asked to do something completely different that was super interesting. But at the time when I was looking on their website, there was zero opening for. And this is a really, really big part. There is something called the hidden job market. Have any of you ever heard of the hidden job market? I can't really tell if anybody's hands are going up. Anybody, the hidden job market? So the hidden job market is so interesting. And the way it works, and I feel like Gemma and Akil can jump in on this if you like, is that sometimes when you're working in a business, everybody inside the business kind of knows what's about to go down or what is going down. So if somebody has just gone on a leave, somebody has moved to a different position or has been promoted, they may have roles in the company that they don't have yet listed. But when you're going for the job interview, they already know the folks that are interviewing you know what's up. So they might be able to place you someplace. So part of this is really accessing the hidden job market. Another thing that you're doing to really hit that hidden job market is being in a situation like this. The folks in this group are all excellent students. You guys are all going to excel in your lives. So you already kind of have an advantage to getting to know one another and joining and developing something called a network, right? So far, so good?
Yeah.
I'm just going to close this here. So I already said what the purpose of the interview questions are. Um, what I want to highlight here too is for them to also see how comfortable you are speaking, how well prepared you can be, how you present yourself, because you would be representing a company. And if you're unable to make eye contact, if you're unable to look up and, smile at somebody, answer a direct question, that helps the interviewer know, well, maybe this isn't a good fit, or maybe they just have to practice a bit more. Now, I do want you to know something. When you are going for a job interview, the folks in HR know that you're nervous. Okay? They do not expect perfection. There are studies that are out there that really highlight that we know folks are not able to always produce their absolute best. Sometimes they're nervous talking. Sometimes they've had a series of things happen to get them to the door that may not have been going their way. Sometimes it rains when you don't expect it and you get super wet when you present yourself. If it's an online interview, maybe your computer or your camera weren't working, so you feel stressed out. So we're going to make sure you kind of prepare yourself for all of those things so that way you're ready and you have your best foot forward when you're doing your job interview. Oh, I'm stuck again. Here we go. You guys hear that beep?
I haven't heard a beep.
Oh, okay. It's just me. So I kind of asked some of the folks already if you've been working. And so that was my kind of way of getting that icebreaker going. But does anybody want to share a story about what that job interview process was like if you haven't already gotten the chance to speak? We'll just go once if nobody wants to. Oh, Alia, go ahead.
Just talk about the process.
Sure. What that was like for you, what that impact left for you, what you were, feeling.
Honestly, I wasn't really like nervous about it because
Mm-hmm.
I knew like what I was getting into and like I already like expected the questions. Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like I already knew what you're gonna ask, so like I already had the answers in the back of my head.
So how did you already know? Had you prepared? You just had a good vibe about it? How did you?
Yeah, because like for example, like I had an interview to become a camp counselor.
Okay.
So like I already knew like they're gonna talk about, oh, have you ever had an experience with kids, or like if you know like safety calls, like have you even been to a camp,
Hmm.
like stuff like that. So I was able to answer it like quickly, but also like think through my answer.
Nice.
Like I could like present myself in like a formal way because I can't like just talk like I can't speak like how I talk to my friends to an interview because like I have to be more formal with it.
Hmm. So we always have to kind of put our best foot forward, is what you're saying, and absolutely you're correct. So what I like what Aaliyah is saying is it Alia or Aaliyah?
Aaliyah.
Perfect. So what I like that Aaliyah is saying is that she could kind of anticipate because she knew the role that she was going for. So when you are applying for jobs, so something that's really important is you got to kind of be specific and know what it is you're applying for. Even though I said just previously, they might want you for something else. You don't know what you don't know. So you have to know what it is you're trying to apply for. All right. So with that said, I want you to make sure you know a little bit about the business, and we're going to continue talking about what that looks like for you as well. So these are the following stages of the job interview process. The first is screening. The second, and this is for most typical jobs, for more part-time jobs, it might be much less than this, but this is something of a formula you can expect as you ramp up in your age and career.
Excuse me just for 1 second, Sita.
Hmm.
I just have someone at my door.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna click off for a few minutes so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
sure,
can
sure, sure.
continue.
No problem.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're fine. So again, these are the stages of the interview process. Phone interview. Then afterwards, they might want to see you and do a video interview. You may be called in for a second, third, fourth, and these days, even a fifth interview. Some of these may be in person, some may be online, because obviously we've seen through the pandemic an uptake in at-home work and also international work. So you can be working remote in Montreal, but the rest of your team is in the Netherlands or Amsterdam or wherever. So sometimes you'll have multiple times for meetups to find how you work with different teams and have different questions from other teams that you may be supporting. Many jobs will do a background check, and the final one and the most fun one is getting that offer. Now, it won't be the same for every single time, but this is very common. The second, third, and fourth interview, sometimes we don't see it that much, but we've already had one of you say that you're just waiting for orientation and you had two interviews. In that time frame of you waiting, sometimes what the other folks at the interview process are doing is they're kind of getting all their information together. They're vetting more interviewees, and or if they haven't yet found what they're looking for, they're putting more interviews out there. Okay. Everybody good so far? Any questions? We're okay? So how can you prepare for an interview? What you want to do is you want to start to look up this company. Now, somebody who's working at Winners would maybe want to say, hey, I'm open to working for the banner. I would work for HomeSense or I would work for Marshalls. I would also love equally to work for Winners. If you kind of show them in your interview that you understand that there are multiple brands under their banner, it shows them that you have taken a minute to know a little bit about a product, right? Now, if he's wanted to work at McDonald's, you're not going to turn around and say, well, I wish I can give people Frosties, because that's going to show them you don't know about their banner, right? So you want to highlight that you know where it is you want to work and what your goals are. Um, Prepare common interview questions, and we're going to go through those in a little bit. And I would love, as you are getting into more advanced career stuff, that you reread the job description a good few times. Because the more you read it, the more it starts to make sense. Or the more you read it, the more you realize this isn't exactly what I had in mind, but let me see what they have to offer. Now, here's a little word to the wise. Job descriptions sometimes make no sense. And it's not their fault. It's a straightforward thing, but sometimes they're super overwhelmed in a company or they're changing the role that you're applying for, and they don't exactly know what everything that you'll be doing will be encompassing. So you have to go there ready to ask questions too. Okay? I want you guys to really remember that. Now, these are some of the things that you can do to be prepared. You can practice. And I say that because have you ever had to read something out loud, but you read it to yourself and it's smooth, right? Because you're reading it to yourself, everything is going really well. But the minute you have to start reading that topic or that paragraph, like your voice is choppy and you're starting to get nervous, it's natural because you're hearing yourself outside of yourself for the first time for that topic. So what you can do is you can get a partner and you can practice. You can answer questions in front of the mirror. And I think that's actually, some people laugh at that, but it's a really, really great way for you to navigate how you sound when you're answering questions. It also allows you to see if you're making eye contact, if you're smiling, if you're being present. And now I'm doing my workshop with you guys, and I think I'm being present. I would hope so. But imagine if I just looked like this the whole time. So what you guys need to do is go into it being prepared. What preparation looks like is different for everyone. You guys would feel like I was giving you attitude, right? Because that's kind of rude the way I'm acting. So even if you're doing an online interview, you want to be making eye contact to the camera. If there's more than one person on the screen, you kind of want to turn your eyes around to all of them. And those little things make a huge difference and give you the advantage. You also want to make sure that you're using your body language in a proper way. You're open, that your camera's on, that you don't have too many things that you don't want people to see behind you. You have to be mindful of the space that you're in, right? Also, we're going to get to having you prep questions for your interviewer, which is super important, and also being prepped for that video part. So if an interviewer is waiting for too long for you to join a video call, that might really leave them feeling a little bit disgruntled or not really feeling that you're, interested. Also, you want to check your voice, check your audio, check all those things well in advance because anything and everything can happen, especially when you're having a job interview. You guys ready to dig into some very common questions? So one that happens a lot is tell me about yourself. Would somebody want to take a stab at telling me about themselves? If you like, I'll just name somebody out here. Okay, I hope I'm saying your name well. Kashante? Did I say it okay?
Yeah, you said it fine.
All right, you go for it. Tell me about yourself.
Well, my name's Kishante Miller James. I'm 16. I'm not really that interesting. I have multiple hobbies. I like instruments, I like dancing, I like playing soccer. I also love building and I love working in team environments. And I like leading people, like not being a leader like a bossy one, but I like working in a group so everything can get done properly.
Nice. Now, correct me. Did you say before you are not interesting?
I said I don't think I'm very interesting.
Well, I think everything you just said makes me want to get to know you more. So I think you need to take that out and you need to insert all of the other things because everything else is wonderful.
Thank you.
But by you saying you don't think you're interesting leaves me as an interviewer to question whether or not you believe in yourself. And
Mm,
one thing y'all want to do when you're trying to get a job is make me believe that you are the one for that role.
mm.
So you are interesting. You're a leader. You're musically inclined. You have different passions. I don't know about you, but that's very interesting.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And super happy you took this is a safe space, y'all. I'm happy you answered that the way you did. Because I didn't go through the slide yet before you did. So thank you for being brave. But when somebody asks you, tell me about yourself, some things happen all the time. One, people tend to overtalk and they don't actually answer the question, especially because they're nervous. So be specific. Don't overtalk. That's a big one. This is your chance to show them how well you communicate. So make eye contact, smile. If you're feeling overwhelmed, pause, take a breath. That's fine. That allows you to take control and command of the room. Okay? And that it helps that you can connect and react with others. It also shows them, even though you're a teenager, how presentable and professional you are. When I have done job interviews with folks that are a little bit younger, I'm blown away by folks that are able to really show me who they are in a very mature manner. It leaves me wanting to know them more and it leaves me wanting to have them on my team. Okay. Um, and the don't overtalk thing, do not beat yourself up if you feel like you just chatted for too long because it is your time to let them know about you. But sometimes we give them all of our cards, meaning I haven't had a job for a while and I want to get this job because I need to really be working. And so that kind of gives them the this nervous energy, right? They don't need to know all that. They don't need to know that you've been looking for a minute. They don't need to know that this is your dire straits, right? They just need to know everything about you. You're a high school graduate to be, what your core subjects are, what do you love the most, why you're interested in being there, but focus more on you. Focus on being on being chosen to be this wonderful mentee. Tell them that you're an excellent person. Tell them that you excel in your academics. Those things are there not to be braggadocious, but to highlight that you are capable of doing hard things and you excel at it. Okay? So I'm gonna call on Julian. Give me a shot now. Tell me about yourself.
So my name's Julian. I would say, well, I'm just finishing up high school, 17, and I think I'm pretty creative. I'm have able to adapt very well to situations and get along with people and meet new people. And I enjoy music, art. Yeah, I don't know.
Nice. Now you've opened the door for me, Julian, to ask you, explain the time for me that you've been adaptable.
Adaptable. Well, I would say that there's a lot of group projects maybe in school where I've been put with people I don't necessarily know, and that was an opportunity to get to know them and then kind of just form a new connection with someone who I wouldn't have normally made a connection with. So
Excellent. Now, what I like there, and I'm going to just piggyback off of what Kashante said before, that is showing leadership without saying you're a leader. There's a difference. By being willing to work with new people and looking at it as an opportunity to grow and connect and try new things, that's saying, hey, I have a leadership quality about me because I'm willing to put myself in the lion's den. So the next point is if Kashante, you were to say, I'm a leader, and then they were like, well, tell me how you're a leader, being able to back up what it is that you do in a silent leadership role or in a fierce leadership role, similar to what Julian said just now, by being able to be thrown into something and adapt with it, that's a great way to do so. Are you guys with me so far? Can I get some of these? I need some big time love that I know you're with me. Okay, let's continue. Why am I the only person there we go. Tell me about yourself. So I'm going to deconstruct it a little bit more. I want you to be present. I want you to talk a little bit about if you're currently working. This once again is set up for folks that are a little bit older or as you guys are building. So to the young ladies that are at McDonald's, when you're at McDonald's and your time there is done and you're looking for something else, the best way to look for work is while you're working, right? The reason we tell you that is for a bunch of reasons. You're usually not as stressed out to look for work when you're working, right? Because you already know you have something. So when you present yourself at the interview, you're usually a little bit more calm, a little bit more centered because you're not stressed and down to the wire. Okay? So be present. Talk about what you're currently doing. Talk about the passions that you have. Talk about the hobbies that you have. I really like how both of you put into your answers that you have passions for the arts. The reason why that's so good is because it allows me to then ask you more questions to get to know you better, right? I might want to ask you, well, what kind of music do you listen to? Now, if we're in different age ranges or different musical background tastes, it might teach me something new or it might show us that we have similarities, and that helps you feel connected sooner, right? The other thing is I want to know about what you're dealing with. I want to know about your big accomplishments. So just say, and I like how Julian said, you're about to graduate from high school. That tells me right away you're in transition. Something big is coming. You're ready to like ramp up your responsibilities. So without saying it's a big accomplishment, just say this is where you're at. Be present in your timing. Don't, for the past now, you don't want to get there and tell your interviewer how many different things you've done unless they're asking. All right. I want you to be as relevant to what you're doing as possible. And I would love for you to mention somehow what you're looking forward to, what's coming next. So it might be, you're excited to be starting college or a vocational program or to be taking your personal project into the stratosphere that you wanted to go into. And that work is going to help anchor that. Do you see how it kind of helps it all come together? Good. This is a big one. Now, this usually, by the way, I think I'm going to stop sharing and I want to see y'all for a second. It's a really interesting thing to highlight. More and more job interviews are changing to be asking questions along the lines of, tell me who your spirit animal is. If you had to describe yourself as a color, what color would you be and why? Like, I mean, people are asking questions that are not traditional anymore. They're asking you more blunt questions and asking you things straight up, like, why do you want to work here? And they don't want you to lie, but they also don't want to see you sweat. So if somebody asks you what your spirit animal is, what do you think you're gonna say? Or somebody I've heard in job interviews before, can you tell me what favorite fruit you represent or favorite pizza topping you would be? Like, sometimes these are psychological questions to kind of see how you are and how you are in like a different setting, but some people really rate these as important questions. So kind of be ready for anything, okay? I'm gonna ask Akil for a moment to just weigh in on the different types of interview questions. Have you been privy to anything like that?
No one's ever asked me what my spirit animal was. But I definitely have been asked about situations I'd been in my past, not just past jobs, but in school, in extracurricular activities, things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
where I had to deal with conflict, resolve conflict between colleagues or coworkers or classmates, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been asked to name challenges that I had to overcome. I've been asked to name situations where I had to make a sacrifice in order to achieve something that I wanted to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Ambitious goals I set for myself and what strategies I developed in order to achieve those goals, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I also just wanted to add really quickly that in the past, after being hired for certain jobs, I've been told that one of the deciding factors was that they got the impression that I played well with others. So that I was someone who's easy to get along with. I remember when I was in law school over a decade ago in New York, someone I remember telling me that when you're being interviewed, especially for those types of high-powered, high-energy jobs that are very hectic and stressful, like legal practice, uh, oftentimes they want to get to know you, and the job interview, the main purpose of it is to find out if we hire this person, am I going to be able to stand them when we're working together at 2 o'clock in the morning? After working a 24-hour workday, and we're sitting on the floor of our office eating Chinese food surrounded by documents and trying to, just meet a tight deadline. Is this person gonna drive me crazy, or am I gonna be able to get along with them? So
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten that positive feedback after actually being hired for a job.
Right. And the opposite can be true where, thank you for that. And the opposite can be true where you show who you are, you show all your positive traits, and the person interviewing you is like, this one is really ambitious, and they're going to outgrow that role we're trying to hire them for very quickly. Do not take that personally. That is not a failure. That is an okay. It hurts at the time because you might really want the role, but they know that you wouldn't last in the role happily for as long as they would want to put in the energy to be training you for. That's a really big one because sometimes we take it personally and it hurts, but we don't know until after the fact that, wait a minute, could I have really been answering phones all day, every day when my passion is and my skill set is to be creating pamphlets, let's say? I would be happier to be creating the work site versus answering phones. Sometimes they see that quality in you, so it seems like a setback, but it really is an opportunity for you to just kind of propel yourself where you want to go. Are we doing okay? Everybody still like with me? We're interested still? Can I get some visible love? Little thank you. So, why do you want this job? Anybody want to take a quick chance at answering? Tashea, go for it.
Like, answer the question
Yeah,
like
girl.
as if I was asked this in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess I would say something along the lines of I would like to gain experience in working in a different environment that I haven't been accustomed to, but I would like to grow my experience
Mm-hmm.
and something like that.
I like that. I like that. And now couple that with one of the first slides with understanding the job or the company a little bit, then you want to throw in because this job is a leader in X thing or it's really great at doing Y thing. And because of that, I really want to be able to grow in this field, right? Like just take what you know about it, even if it's McDonald's. Even if it's something that is just a part-time job and you just need to make sure you have money to kind of get through college, you got to let them know why it's this company. Sometimes they may not ask you if it's real part-time and they know you're here because you're a student, but you also want to show them that you're a brilliant person because you're in this program, y'all, because you are totally brilliant and you are totally capable of doing hard things. So you want to highlight that to them too. So I'm just going to read through some of these really quickly. Oops, what is happening right now, y'all? Did I just change it completely? I did. Here we go. Do we see this?
Why do you want this job?
Do you see it? Thank you so much. So when you're ramping up in your careers, people really want to know that you're going to stick around, that you have an opportunity to grow in the role. Now, maybe you guys have been on Instagram and you've seen that there's folks who have worked at McDonald's for years and have eventually become not just a key holder, not just a manager, but have become like part owners or have gone on to save enough to buy a franchise. Right? And so it's not just giving you a foundation for a job. Depending on what certain goals can be, you might end up being a company owner, right? So now you're a boss and you're helping employ other people in your community, which is really interesting and really cool. So you want to identify why you're passionate about the job. Not just, oh, it'll be cool to work here, but your answer should really take in a couple of really cool factors. You want to tell them what it is that you love to do and why their company would be great for you to work there. Right? So my mentee is on the call. I called on her just now, and I know that she wants to go into animation. So if you end up getting a job that's not 100% in animation, but it's at a studio where you'll be working with other creatives, that could be a really great way in, correct? So you might want to say, my all-time goal is to work in animation. And I feel that being in this environment is going to teach me so much about production, teach me about how things are done, and really help lay the foundation for where I want to go and mature and grow in the field. I would be humbled to have it. I mean, who wouldn't want you, right? Because you're saying you know what you want and what you want to get out of the role. So that's why you want this job. Then you might want to say, why do you love the company? Back to what I said before, highlight what it is that you like about them. Now, I don't want to make you feel like you have to lie to these folks because sometimes working at Wendy's or Harvey's is not something that you love. So your first set of interviews may not be so complicated, right? Because they might just really be like, what's your availability? Do you speak English? Yes. Do you speak French? Yes. Let's get it. Like it could be as easy as that. But while you're on the job, think about all of the things you are learning. Think about the way you are able to connect with customers. Think about how you are able to deal with difficult situations, how you are able to work with challenging coworkers. To Akil's point before, it is extremely important and it's going to happen. And it's one of the questions coming up. Tell me about a time you've had to deal with a difficult circumstance. It's going to happen, and they want to know how you deal with conflict. The reason we ask this question is we really want to make sure that you're not going to be calling and running to your boss right away or giving up and walking out. Can you withstand a difficult situation, navigate it, and come and tell me about it? Or try to work it out and then come and tell me after. I've tried X, I've tried Y, I've tried Z. Now, as my manager, you need to know during our check-in chat, this is not working. We're arguing, or this person's showing up late. It's working, it's messing up my schedule, my routine, whatever the situation is, right? But they want to see that you were trying to work out and sort the situation out for yourself and that you're using deductive reasoning, that you're using different ways of communicating to try to get to the person. Because as many folks of us are on the call right now, we're all totally different. We're all in the same place right now, but we all have different ways of expressing ourselves, how to see things, how to get to where we want to go. So we want to make sure that when we're working with people, we're able to work with them in the way that best navigates each other. What's really, really interesting here is that last part. We are all different. And because we're all different, you want to make sure that you are able to team build and that you're willing to work with people that are different than you. Keep those things in mind, and then you want to be able to highlight as you get a different job or as you're going for more jobs, what it is that you can do to navigate difficult situations. I'll give you an example. I was hired at Breakfast Television years ago. to be a producer. And the first thing on the phone that I was asked, how do you handle conflict? And I was like, oh, I'm good at it. Actually, I think I'm pretty good at it because I did conflict resolution courses. Like here I am thinking, what a strange, first question. It came up two or three more times on the call. So why am I bringing this up? Because without telling me that people were fighting, I was being told people were fighting. If you're asking me three separate times, how do I feel with conflict? They're telling me that there's a conflict that's happening in the place. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So I get called in for the in-person job interview now. And during the job interview, it came up two separate times. Once near the beginning, how do I feel with tense situations? How do I feel when people are not, being their best? And then it happened again where the person was very direct and let me know of a scenario where folks were not getting along and how I can manage. Now, I have to be accountable to what I can handle because I said, I got this, no problem. I actually did not fully understand what he meant by conflict, but he was not lying. People were like not okay in there. And I was like, what concrete jungle did I just walk into? Right? People were like not nice with one another. And I've come to realize we were getting up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to run a morning show. It's probably because we weren't at our best times, right? But I couldn't turn to my now boss and be like, you have ill prepared me because he told me straight up, listen, we've got some tension happening. I don't want you adding to it, but I want to make sure you can withstand it. Right? So I had to know what I was walking into. It would be different if he made me feel like everything was, roses and I walked in and it was like a screaming match every day. But it wasn't that. I was walking into a job where I knew there was conflict because he let me know in more than one way. So how I rose to that situation and how I continue to rise to that situation was something that was good for me, but also great intel for what I tell other employees or employers when I'm trying to get other work. When they're like, tell me about a difficult work situation, I that comes up every time, right? Because I had to navigate that. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. So we've gone through why do you want this job? Now, here's an easy one, but also important. How did you hear about this position? Sometimes you go directly on their website. I don't know if you guys still go in person and ask people if they're hiring. I still love that method. I really know that it's not really the most famous one or the most popular one these days, but a lot of times you get jobs from looking on job sites, from going to career fairs, from having people tell you about it. So now, if you found out about the position from somebody, now is the time to let them know who that is, right? If it's a friend of yours that's been working at that company for a little while, name drop. And you have to because then it helps orient how they would know you and it places you as that type of employee. What you have to know is whether or not your friend or the person who's telling you about the job is a great employee. Because if they show up late and they're not that great and they keep slacking, then that's not the best thing for you to do. Okay? But you want to make sure that you tell them about how you heard about the position in a very clear way. And mostly because people love knowing that their marketing budget and how they're using their money to let people know that their hiring is working. Okay. It's important to them. It's kind of like a little small intake survey. Oh, okay. So those ads on the radio worked, or oh, okay, that Instagram ad worked. They want to know how you heard about it. So just let them know. Okay. Very easy. So when they ask you this one, what do you know about the company? I know I've been saying a while now, it's really important for you to kind of learn a little bit about the company, talk a little bit about it, but it's really basic. It's because people love hearing about themselves. They love hearing about where they work. So it's kind of an opportunity for you to shine in a way without like greasing them too much. You want to let them know that you looked up on their website, that they have a huge give back program, that you really enjoy that they employ youth or a lot of minorities. You want to highlight the things that you love that their company is doing, even if it's McDonald's and even if it's Winners. Winners is a great example of being a leading Canadian employer, right? The TJX brand. It's also a great way of saying they hire folks that are, usually a little bit older than the normal hiring range, and folks that are younger. They give an awesome shot to people that are new arrivals. Those things are important because you're showing them that you see that they're diverse. But pick something that speaks to you so that way you're being honest in your answer. Okay. And as you ramp up in your career and you are looking for jobs that are really tailor specific to where it is that you want to go and grow, you really want to make sure that you're doing meaningful searches and you talk about the things that make their company shine. Because there are 100 car places, there are hundreds of places like retail, but what is it about this place? Why? It's not just H&M. Maybe the conscious thing about H&M is what's really important to you. Or maybe it's the fact that they have a really great, I don't know, recycling program. Something that speaks to you that you can share with them that sparks something is important to highlight. Why should we hire you? Now, that's a really big question. Anybody want to take a shot at answering that? Or do you want me to pick somebody?
You may need to pick someone.
Okay, I'm going to go with Kira.
I would say that I am really enthusiastic. I would add enthusiasm to the team. I am adaptable when it comes to different personalities, and I am a good listener, so I would be a good employee to whoever's hiring me. And I guess I would like list skills that are specific to the company too. Like if it's like a fast-paced job, I would mention that I may be good under pressure because of certain circumstances and stuff like that.
Excellent. I think that's a fantastic way to answer that question. And it shows me, because I just called you out like that you're also good under pressure, right? And that you're able to
Okay.
answer and you're not timid. So those are really, really wonderful qualities that you want to highlight. Now, before when I was asking about, your favorite pizza topping or your fruit or your spirit animal, they might ask you those questions instead of why should we hire you? And that's just their psychological way of just trying to understand how you would answer those questions. Any questions about that so far? This was great how you answered, by the way. So just to dig it in a little bit more, you really want to highlight, and this is a time where you can be slightly braggadocious. There's a thin line between being arrogant and braggadocious, okay? So you don't want to be arrogant, but you definitely want to be confident. You want to let them know they should hire you because you're bringing your best to the team. I like the way that Kira said you're adaptable, that you have so many things that you can bring to the table, that you're a good listener. So you're also bringing out your key qualities as well as highlighting it to the prospective job description that you're being hired for. So you want to do that nice mashup together. Okay. What are your greatest professional strengths? Now, this always happens to come up, and people ask you, what are your strengths and your biggest weaknesses? Whenever this question is asked, they come as a pair. I'm going to stop sharing because I really want you to listen to this. I really want you to focus on doing your weakness first and following up and ending it with your strength because that's how you want them to remember it. Okay? So the order of which you answer is important. Now, if somebody asks you for your biggest strengths, what would you think you should be answering? Uzario de Zoom, since I don't know your name, go for it.
Allison, I think that's you.
Yes,
How would you answer what are your biggest weaknesses?
my biggest weaknesses. That's a trick question.
Like that confidence.
Um, well, my biggest weakness might be that I sometimes just overly organize in a way. So I tend to prepare everything a lot, and that makes me not actually do the thing at some point because I'm trying to make sure that it ends up like being perfect once I do it. But I should rather just do it and then learn as I go.
Okay. So Akil's making a face. Why are you making a face?
It just reminds me of this moment in 2008 when Barack Obama was first running for president. They got a question like that all the candidates in the Democratic primary had to answer. And one by one, most of them all gave, and I think this is why Allison called this a trick question. They all gave answers that weren't really weaknesses at all. They were all strengths thinly veiled as weaknesses. So it was all, I just care so much about the people. I just really want to help the American people so greatly. And Obama came last and he laughed and said, I thought that we were being asked for weaknesses, but all of my opponents all just gave strengths that they disguised as weaknesses. I'm going to give you an actual weakness and actually answer the question honestly. So I'm glad that this issue came up because I would love to get Zeta's take on how the best way to answer that type of question. Do you actually give them a genuine weakness, or do you
You
give them
do.
a strength that you spin as a weakness superficially?
It's a combo. So I'm happy you answered that. And I'm happy you did say this is a trick question because it is a trick. Now, if somebody asks you what's your biggest weakness, you guys, please do not do this. Oh, I have a time management issue. I hate getting up in the morning. Because that could be true. But you are basically telling them you're never showing up on time. So they are not going to hire you. Or I usually have a problem getting to where I need to be because I get lost often. So you're showing them that you're disoriented and that you can't follow instructions or like use the applications and use the tools around you. So what you want to do is use a weakness that you can be actively working on. One that I use often, which is true, is that I say I'm clearly an Anglophone and working and living in Quebec. I'm always trying to strengthen my French. So I'm enrolled in a French class or I'm doing Toastmasters. Now, it is true. I don't think, and sometimes it limits me from higher applying for straight up French roles because I don't think my strong point is French. But there's French everywhere around me. And so I always say I'm always addressing my weakness by saying I'm actively in places and in spaces where I'm practicing my French. So you want to identify a true weakness, but not one that they're going to say, no, 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 no. We can't have somebody not showing up because they couldn't wake up. Okay. You don't want that kind of weakness. You want a weakness that you are actively able to pursue working on. Because that shows two things. It shows grit on your part, but it also shows that you're able to reflect and look at yourself honestly, right? So you want to give a, I don't want to use the words like Akil just said, weakly veiled, because I don't want you to be lying, but you have to be putting your best foot forward at all times. You have to be dressed well. You have to be properly coiffed. You have to look the part. So why would you then tell them that, you can't get your act together to be there on time if you want the job? So please don't ever give them the weakness that's big like that. Or something that will be so hard for them to see past. Okay? Somebody want to give me or like take off their mute for a second and throw a weakness out at me that they'd say that they had?
You're gonna make us call on you, guys.
Here,
I was gonna say, like, I've said this before, I don't really know if it's a good one, but that I'm a little nervous around confrontation. And I guess a solution could be that if I'm in an environment where there are people, like I'll kind of be forced to confront people so I can, build that skill over time. Like I feel like it's something that can be easily improved, but I don't know if it's a good one.
I think it's good because you're showing that it's something you're willing to put in the work to do. There's a difference, right? Like, I don't like conflict, but if you're going to be working in customer service, you're going to see conflict. So you have to be mindful if it's customer service related, you have to be mindful that that's probably part of the job and say, I'd like to really, flex that muscle or learn better and learn from my teammates how to work with or deal with those types of situations. So you're also highlighting that you're a great team player. Okay, that was excellent. Take one more person. Key, would you like to go? What would one of your weaknesses be?
Um, I would say that I could get sometimes like very overwhelmed in like very like crowded areas. For example, like if it's like very loud, I could sometimes like be a lot like toned down instead of like being very like active and present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so how would you take that very honest weakness and try to flip it so that way you can work in a maybe a McDonald's situation that would be filled with people in a high stressful situation?
Keaton,
Mm-hmm.
still
Trying to
there?
think.
Okay.
Did you need a second?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So also what is very, I'm going to just use the word key because it is really important is be mindful of the type of job you're applying for. Because if it's something that you have a lot of anxiety towards or have to really work on, then the job shouldn't be the training ground in all situations for you to try to navigate those things, right? So be mindful of the type of role and the type of situation you're going to find yourself in for work as well. Thank you for participating. Actually, thank you to all of you for participating. We have just a few more slides and then we are going to wrap, and I'll give you guys a few times if you have any questions, if there's moments for that. But just back to this one, really important when you are answering your strengths and weaknesses, again, leave them with your strengths in mind. So what are some of your strengths? I've heard adaptable before. I think resilient is a really big word that's around now. Flexible, a key listener. I loved that that came out because it was very honest when Kira said it. So be honest about your leadership style. Be honest about what it is that you love about yourself. They want to see a confident young person in front of them. It's not their job to build confidence in you. They want to see that you have that and work on the potential that they're seeing, right? Help you realize that. Good so far? Are you guys seeing my screen? No, I just stopped.
Yes.
Oh, you are. Thank
Well,
you.
now not, but before we just did.
Thank you. Here we go.
There it is.
So there are just one or two more questions here, but one that I want you all to practice with me now is, what would you like to leave people remembering you by in a job interview? What are some things that you would like to say about yourself? Think about that when before you're going to a job interview. You want to think about, how did they remember me? How did I present myself? So this is a little bit on the side of job interview skills. It's preparation. And it's important that you are very aware of what you're wearing. If you have a Zoom meeting, think about a bunch of things. Think about what you're wearing. Think about jewelry if it's making noise, because that can be very distracting. Think about your background. Be intentional. If there are books that you want them to see, go for it. If there is something that you're proud of, let them see it. But if you're in a very busy, unkept situation, you might not want that to be your background. Think about those pieces. Also, think about makeup for the young ladies. You don't want to be too overly done, especially if you're running late. If something happens and you have a little smear somewhere, you'll be really like thinking about that. Back to being online, if you have an online interview, don't wear something that could buzz. Do you guys know what buzzing means? Something with a heavy pattern or small checks that can like be distracting. So you want to wear a solid color. I want you to have your screen set up in a way where they can see the top part of your body well. You also want to think about letting your open body language be seen, be confident in that. And how do you do that on Zoom? You plant your feet down, you sit up straight, and you let them see you. It's small little things, but those little things, that's how Gemma got tight. She got straighter. Those little things really show them who you are. Know some of the hardships you've had to go through in grade 10 and 11. Think about some group projects. Have that in the back of your mind, because they'll ask you, talk to me about a difficult situation you've had to navigate. How did you get through it? Right? So think about those things and don't only talk about a tough situation, talk about the resolution of the top situation. That is actually, to me, the more important part. How did you resolve this really tough time? So when I was used to be asked that question, I would always tell folks when I was doing my master's, there was somebody in one of a group project we were in who was really hard to work with, didn't show up to any of our meetings, just completely showed up the day of and had his own presentation, even though he said he was presenting with us and didn't have his stuff ready. And we were like, the five other folks were like, we're not going to get a great mark because he just went to the Wild West. And afterwards, we had to tell the teacher, listen, we are not aligned with this. And it felt a bit like snitching, right? Because you want to stay cohesive, but that person could have taken my A all the way to an F, and we worked too hard for that. And that's real life. Sometimes people have real life things happening and don't know how we can interact with them. So always being honest with our folks, always being honest with who's in your team. You don't have to divulge too much if something personal is happening, but just say, hey guys, I might need a moment, or things aren't going really great for me right now. I just need to circle back. Or I cannot attend a meeting, and mean that. Don't just show up late. Be mindful of people's time. If everyone's showing up to a meeting on time, that translates to how people talk about you. And that's where I'm going to leave you off. Your reputation is everything. Have you guys ever heard of your network is your net worth? It's a big one. What we mean by that is it's the people that know you that are going to help you access that hidden job market I spoke to you about just before. It's the people that will vouch for you, that won't just give you a kudos on LinkedIn, but will really speak to your character, that are going to help get you inside rooms and break down doors that you previously didn't have access to. So it's important that you are transparent and that when you show up, you bring your whole self and that you are able to bring your whole self and give your maximum. If you are going through a period or a season where you cannot, it is always better for you to be upfront about that instead of disappointing people. I'll give you a quick analogy here is that you don't want to give somebody 100% trust and then over that semester, they lose marks every time. So then by the end of the semester, you don't trust them anymore. You would rather walk into something and let them gain your trust every time. So that way, when you leave that semester and working with them, you really want to know that they have the best of for you and they'll think highly of you and want to work with you again. Does anybody have any questions? I see I'm maybe a few minutes over, so we're gonna wrap here. I want to wish you all the absolute best of luck when you are doing job interviews and also be fearless. Apply for all of the jobs. Apply for all of the things. Go for as many job interviews as you can and look at it as practice because you'll always gain information about what different styles are like, what different people they're looking for. And every time you go for a job interview, you just sharpen that skill set. So sometimes I've known folks when I was working in this field that go on job interviews even though they're not looking, just to kind of see what's out there, just to see how interviews have changed. I don't necessarily recommend that to everybody, but just know that you can do it and know that you should be fearless when you're applying for roles. And if you want something, you guys, go out there and get it. Good? Any questions?
Excuse me, I had a question.
Sure.
It doesn't apply to me, but would an interviewer treat you differently if you were, say, like you just had a job and you were transferring to another job? Would they react differently during the interview?
Meaning you're looking for a new role right away.
Yeah.
So it depends. Maybe that's when they answer, when you're asked the question about conflict or what your expectations were. Maybe that's when you can openly and like very transparently say, I was hired for something that, isn't necessarily challenging me, or, be very kind about it because you never want to bad talk anybody ever. By the way, these worlds are way too small. People always know people. So you're never starting with, oh, because my boss was a not nice person. We don't go there. Just say our personalities were in conflict or just say it wasn't the role for me. I don't think it's a problem to look. Back in the day, we would ask folks to stay in a role for 5 years. Now people change jobs every year. Like it's not the same way it used to be. And if you can go for a job interview to have something better, then try for it. Why not?
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? That's a great question. Anybody else? Before you go for your next job interview, do yourself a service. Go to the mirror for two reasons. Answer questions in the mirror. Look at how you look. Look at how you are smiling. Look at your body language. Try to like change things up. If you're super stoic, well, throw a smile in there, okay? Just make them see that you're really a personable person. And the second reason is to check your fit. Because sometimes I've done interviews with young ladies who I'm sure have put on their absolute best outfit, but it's like this much too short. And they're in the interview and because they don't realize it's too short until it's too late. Or they may not feel it's too short until it's too late. And they're like sitting down and they're checking and they're fidgeting. So that takes away from your opportunity to be focused and working on your answers. Same thing with guys. Sometimes like it's just been like something just is off or they're no longer happy or they've taken off their cap because you should not wear a hat in an interview. And now they're really concerned about how they're looking. And so they're more preoccupied with that. So go in the mirror and check yourself out and make sure you look exactly how you want to present yourself before you actually leave the door. Leave sooner than later because the day for an interview, something always goes wrong. The metro never works that day. There's always some kind of fire on the metro. There's always something that's going to delay you on the day that you can't be late. So plan for that. Also, look at your weather app It happens often where people get caught in the rain and they're running to a job interview and then they feel like a hot mess because they're literally hot and wet and it's weird and they are really disappointed in themselves. And you don't want that to be what people see. And the very, very, very last thing I'd like to say is if you go in person to a job interview, look around what's around you. Usually, the person who is letting you in, like the receptionist, they are the number one source of and how you should get that job, yes or no. How you greet them is important. How you thank them afterwards is important. And look around what's there. I have been very, very happy to see that sometimes they leave things, bigger companies leave things out for you to look at on purpose. Their perspectives, their annual magazine or flyer, something. And if a lot of folks are on their phone and they're not paying attention to what's around them, a job interviewer can pick up on that. Because being on your phone, even though you might be going through questions, even though you might be mentally preparing, take your phone off a few minutes before your job interview and just sit and be easy. Center yourself. Don't be on your phone up until the last moment. It shows that you can't really be distracted from it. And if you're working, you have to not have your phone on for a lot of the jobs you'll be in. So don't allow for your phone to be the distraction. Pay attention to what's around you. Smile at folks. Thank them for their time. That's important. All right. Good luck,
Well, give a
everybody.
big hand for
Give it a big round of
Zeeta.
Good luck.
I think that was amazing.
Good.
Did you guys enjoy that? Yes. Shake head so I
Yeah.
can see. Everybody has their mute on, but I really want to thank you, Zeeta. That was amazing. I wish I had that 40 years ago when I was looking for a job. But I think it's wonderful, great, great advice for all of you. And I think you better put that into practice and things will go your way. Congratulations again for coming. And thank you again, Zeeta, for being here. That was absolutely wonderful.